The frontier world of Cerealia was not a kind place. The desert stretched for miles, broken only by thin rivers of silver water and settlements built with more hope than certainty. Humans lived there because they had to, not because they wanted to. The outpost was meant to be a symbol of cooperation, a place where different species could live side by side, learning and surviving together. But the truth was far less perfect. Suspicion lived in the air like dust. Aaron knew this better than most. He had been stationed at the outpost for 6 months now, and in that time he had seen how fragile peace really was. The humans worked hard to secure the land, while other races brought their own skills to help. Yet underneath the daily greetings and exchanges there were walls invisible but strong. No one trusted too easily. Among all the different species, the Vulpine were the most mysterious. Tall, graceful and covered in golden fur that shimmered under the twin suns, they walked the outpost with quiet dignity. Their movements were smooth, their voices soft, and their eyes, sharp and bright like molten amber, always seemed to see more than they said. They rarely spoke about themselves, and when asked, they would answer with gentle silence or vague words that revealed nothing. Rumors always followed them. Some said the Vulpine could change their forms. Others whispered they carried secrets of old powers, gifts that made them dangerous. But no proof ever came. And so, humans watched them with unease, and the Vulpine kept their distance. Aaron had heard the stories, but he never joined in the gossip. For him, the Vulpine were not a threat, only a mystery waiting to be understood. He found himself watching them sometimes, not with fear, but with curiosity. And of all the Vulpine at the outpost, one stood out to him. Her name was Sarah. Sarah worked in the communications hall, helping translate signals and monitor transmissions that came from far across the sector. She was not loud or commanding. She carried herself with quiet strength, as though she needed no words to fill the space around her. When she passed by, people often stepped aside without thinking, as if her presence asked for respect without ever demanding it. Aaron had spoken to her only a few times. Their exchanges were always short, simple greetings, quick notes about work. But each time he felt something stir inside him. There was a calmness in her voice that lingered even after she walked away, like the echo of a song that refused to fade. One evening, after a long shift, Aaron left the mess hall and walked through the quieter corridors of the outpost. He carried a bundle of reports under his arm, documents meant for Sarah. The hallway lights hummed softly, and most of the crew had already retired to their quarters. It was peaceful in a way, though a little lonely. As he reached Sarah's quarters, he noticed her door was not fully closed. A faint golden glow spilled from within, brighter than the lamps in the hall. He paused, knocked softly, and called her name. No answer. He frowned, shifting the papers in his arms. Maybe she had stepped out, but the glow inside was too strange, too alive to ignore. Against his better judgment, he pushed the door slightly open. What he saw made him freeze. Sarah stood in the center of the room, her body shimmering with light. Her fur rippled and flowed like molten gold, shifting as though it could not decide what shape it wanted to hold. Her figure blurred, caught between her fox-like form and something softer, almost human. Her hands glowed as if fire lived beneath her skin, and her breathing came heavy, uneven. She turned suddenly, her eyes meeting his. For a long moment, everything stopped. The hum of the lamps, the beating of his heart, even the dust floating in the air seemed frozen. Aaron could not move. He could not speak, and in her glowing eyes he saw something he had never seen before. Not danger, not anger, but fear. Sarah gasped, clutching at her chest as if she had been caught in something sacred and forbidden. The light around her faltered, dimming to a faint shimmer. "You should not be here," she whispered, her voice breaking. Aaron opened his mouth, words tumbling without thought. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." But the truth was, he had already seen more than he was ever meant to. And in that single accidental moment, his life and hers would never be the same again. Aaron's mind was spinning, but his body refused to move. He stood frozen in the doorway, clutching the stack of reports against his chest as though they could shield him from what he had just seen. Sarah's breathing came in ragged waves, her chest rising and falling too quickly. The golden shimmer on her body flickered like a dying flame, sometimes bright, sometimes faint. It was as if she was struggling to keep herself contained, as though her form itself resisted her will. "You cannot be here," she repeated. But this time her voice carried more than fear. It carried desperation, almost pleading. Her hands trembled as she clutched them close to her chest, the glow leaking between her fingers. Aaron swallowed hard. His throat was dry, but he forced out words anyway. I didn't know. I wasn't trying to spy. I only came to deliver the reports. He held up the bundle with a helpless gesture, though his voice shook. The door was open, I thought. Sarah let out a sound between a laugh and a sob, sharp and bitter. You thought you could walk into a Vulpine's quarters without permission? Do you know what you've done? Her eyes locked onto his, and Aaron felt the weight of centuries behind them. He wanted to look away, but something in that golden fire held him fast. I saw something, Aaron admitted, his voice low. Something no one else knows. Something you've been hiding. Sarah's ears tilted back, her expression tightening. She turned away from him, her tail curling low in shame or perhaps defense. It was not meant for human eyes. You should not have seen it. For a long moment, silence filled the room. The hum of the outpost power line seemed louder than ever, pressing in on them both. Aaron wanted to step closer, but he feared any wrong move would shatter whatever fragile trust was left between them. Finally, he dared to ask softly, "What was it?" "What are you?" Sarah's shoulders tensed at the words, and Aaron regretted them instantly. But instead of anger, she only sank slowly to her knees. Her glowing hands pressed to the floor, her head bowed. The light around her flickered weakly, as though her strength had finally given out. "I am Vulpine," she whispered, her voice raw. "But we are more than what your people see. You humans call us mysterious, secretive. You whisper that we are dangerous, and perhaps we are." Aaron set the papers down gently on a nearby table, his hands suddenly empty, suddenly useless. He took a cautious step forward. "Tell me, please." Her golden eyes lifted to him, wet with unshed tears. There was no pride left in her expression, only vulnerability. When a Vulpine changes, it is not a trick of flesh. It is not simple magic. It is a bond, a connection to another soul. Our forms shift because our hearts do. Aaron felt his breath catch in his throat. The words made no sense, yet something about them felt painfully true. A bond with who? Her gaze did not waver. With you. The words struck him harder than any blow. He staggered back, his mind a storm of disbelief and confusion. Me? That's not possible. We barely speak. You are the one my soul chose, Sarah said firmly, though her voice trembled at the edges. It is not about words. It is not about time. It is about truth. The Vulpine do not choose bonds lightly, and yet, when you came into my life, the bond awakened. My form cannot hide it anymore. Aaron's chest tightened. He could see how much it cost her to admit this, how deeply she feared his response. He wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to say it was impossible. But the memory of her glowing form, shifting and breaking with light, would not leave him. It was real, too real. He stepped closer, close enough that the faint warmth of her glow brushed against his skin. If what you're saying is true, then why keep it a secret? Why hide something so powerful? Sarah looked down, her ears folding in sorrow. Because your people would never understand. They would call it manipulation. They would say we use bonds to control, to enslave, and perhaps some would try. But it is not like that. It is not about taking. It is about giving, about becoming more. Her words settled over him like heavy stones, pulling him deeper into a truth he hadn't asked for but could no longer ignore. Aaron knelt down in front of her. He didn't touch her. He was afraid even the lightest touch might break whatever fragile moment they shared, but he looked her in the eyes. Then trust me, he said, his voice steady now. I won't tell anyone. Your secret stays with me. Sarah blinked, her glowing lashes catching the light. For the first time that night, she looked less like a being of mystery and more like someone who carried a burden too heavy for one soul to bear. You do not know what you are promising, she whispered. Maybe not, Aaron admitted, but I know this. I don't want you to face it alone. And for a heartbeat, the glow between them softened, not harsh or frightening, but warm, like the quiet spark of something new being born. The room felt smaller now, as though the walls had moved closer around them. Aaron could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his ears, loud enough that he wondered if Sarah could hear it too. He had promised to keep her secret, but the weight of that promise pressed heavily on his chest. He did not yet understand what it meant, and yet he knew it was no small thing. Sarah sat silently on the floor, her golden glow fading slowly until only a faint shimmer remained across her fur. She looked tired, exhausted in a way that went beyond the body. It was the weariness of someone who had carried something alone for too long. Finally, Aaron found his voice. "Sarah," he said softly, careful not to startle her. "This bond you spoke of. Tell me more. I need to understand." She lifted her head, her amber eyes meeting his. For a moment she studied him, as if weighing the risk of sharing more. Then with a quiet sigh she spoke. "For humans, bonds are spoken promises, marriages, friendships, pacts of duty. But for us it is different. A Vulpine bond is not made with words. It is made with the soul. We feel it before we speak it. We cannot run from it. We cannot hide from it. It changes us." Aaron listened intently. Each word felt heavy, carved with meaning. "So when you were changing," he said carefully, "that was because of me." Sarah's ears tilted slightly back, her eyes lowering. "Yes, our forms shift when we find the one our soul has chosen. The body reflects the bond. It is a sign of trust, of devotion. But it is also a secret we guard with our lives." Aaron's throat tightened. He thought about the rumors he had heard around the outpost, the whispers that the Vulpine were dangerous, that they were hiding something. If the others knew this truth, if they knew bonds could change the Vulpine's very being, they would never understand. Fear would rise. Distrust would turn to hatred. He spoke carefully. "If it is such a sacred thing, why show it to me? Why risk everything by letting me see?" Sarah's gaze lifted again, and Aaron saw a flicker of pain in her eyes. "Because I could not stop it. My body betrayed me. I thought I could keep it hidden, but when you came into my life, the bond awoke. I did not choose lightly, Aaron. My kind does not bond often. Some live their whole lives without it. But for me, it was you." The word struck him deeply, more than he expected. He felt something stir in his chest, a strange mix of awe and fear. He wanted to believe her, yet the weight of it frightened him. To be chosen by her people's most sacred bond. What did that even mean for him, for them both? "You don't know what you're saying," Aaron whispered almost to himself. "I'm just a man. I have no power, no special gift. Why would it be me?" Sarah's voice grew steadier, even as her hand still trembled faintly. "The bond does not look for power or greatness. It looks for truth, for something within the soul. Perhaps you cannot see it in yourself, but I can." Aaron felt his chest tighten, his doubts battling against the sincerity in her voice. He wanted to deny it, to step back, but something inside him kept him rooted to the spot. Her words, her eyes, the fragile honesty she offered, it held him there like gravity. He drew in a shaky breath. "If your people knew this bond existed between us, what would they do?" Sarah's expression darkened. "They would call me reckless. They would call you unworthy. Some might try to sever the bond. Others might see you as a threat. That is why no human has ever been allowed to see this truth. We protect it with silence." Her words cut through him. He suddenly realized the danger she had put herself in by admitting any of this to him. If the others ever found out, she would be cast out, or worse. Aaron leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Then why tell me at all?" For the first time, Sarah's composure cracked. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Because I could not carry it alone anymore. Because I am afraid." The raw honesty in her words stunned him. This proud, mysterious Vulpine who always walked with grace and strength. Now she sat before him, trembling, afraid, and yet still trusting him with her deepest secret. Something inside Aaron shifted. The fear he felt did not vanish, but it was joined by something else. An urge to protect her, to keep her secret safe no matter the cost. He reached out, hesitated for a heartbeat, then gently placed his hand near hers on the floor. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel his presence. "You don't have to be afraid," he said firmly, his voice quiet but sure. "Not with me." Sarah's golden eyes glistened. For a moment the glow around her returned, faint but warm, like a soft light in the dark. In that fragile silence, something unspoken passed between them. Not yet a bond, not yet a promise, but the beginning of both. The days after that night felt heavy for Aaron. The outpost looked the same. Dusty corridors, buzzing lights, tired faces passing by, but for him, everything had changed. Every time he saw Sarah across the hall, his chest tightened. Every time she looked away, avoiding his gaze, the silence between them grew heavier. She had told him something no human was ever meant to know. She had given him a truth her people would guard with their lives, and now he carried it, hidden deep inside like a flame too dangerous to let out. but the flame burned him. At night, when he lay in his small quarters, he could not stop thinking about it. He saw Sarah's glowing form whenever he closed his eyes, the way her body had shifted, the trembling in her voice when she admitted she had bonded to him. He told himself he should not think of it, should not think of her, but his heart betrayed him as much as her body had betrayed her. The next morning, when he entered the mess hall, 2 officers were talking at the far table. Their voices were low, but not low enough. "I don't trust the Vulpine," one muttered. "Too quiet, too secretive. They're hiding something, I swear it." The other officer laughed harshly. "Of course they are. You can see it in their eyes. They'll turn on us one day. Just wait." Aaron clenched his jaw. He wanted to shout at them to defend Sarah, but he forced himself to stay silent. What could he say? That they were wrong? That the Vulpine's secret was not betrayal but something sacred? If he said too much, suspicion would fall on him. Still, the words ate at him like poison. Later that day, he found Sarah in the communications hall. She sat before the glowing screens, her golden fur catching the light. She didn't look at him when he entered. Her hands moved quickly across the controls, her expression calm but distant. Aaron stepped closer, his voice low. "We need to talk." Sarah's ears flicked, but she didn't turn. "There is nothing more to say." "That's not true," Aaron pressed. He lowered his voice further, almost a whisper. "You can't just tell me something like that and then shut me out. Do you expect me to act like nothing happened?" Her hands stilled. Slowly, she turned her head, her amber eyes meeting his. They were tired eyes, full of weight. "Yes," she said softly. "That is exactly what I expect. Because if you act differently, others will notice. And if they notice, everything will be lost." Aaron felt frustration twist inside him. "So I'm just supposed to pretend? Pretend I don't know? Pretend you didn't—" He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "Pretend you didn't bond to me," Sarah finished quietly, her voice almost breaking. The silence between them stretched. Aaron's chest ached. He wanted to reach out to take away that sorrow in her eyes, but his hands stayed at his sides. "Sarah," he said finally, his voice raw, "what does this bond mean for me? For us, am I just marked by it? Does it control me somehow?" For the first time, her expression hardened as if his words had cut her. "No, Aaron, the bond does not enslave. It does not command. It is not about power. It is about giving. It asks for courage, not obedience. But you humans—" She stopped herself, biting the words back. Aaron leaned closer, whispering fiercely, "Then tell me why it feels so heavy, why I can't stop thinking about it, why I can't stop thinking about you." Her breath caught, and for a moment the glow flickered faintly along her skin, but then she pulled away, shaking her head. "Because bonds are not meant to be carried lightly. You were never meant to know. I was never meant to feel it. And now we are trapped in a truth neither of us can escape." Aaron stood there, unable to answer. He wanted to fight, to argue, but her words left him hollow. The weight in his chest grew heavier, and he realized something with painful clarity. He was afraid. Afraid of what this bond meant. Afraid of what it could do to both of them. That night, the outpost was restless. Rumors of raider activity spread through the corridors, and soldiers whispered about coming battles. Tension rose like a storm cloud, and Aaron felt it pressing down on everyone. But inside, his storm was different. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing Sarah's words echo in his mind. "It does not enslave. It only gives, but it asks for courage and acceptance," and he wondered, did he have either? The storm came sooner than anyone expected. The outpost woke to alarms, the shrill sound echoing down the metal corridors. Red lights flashed on the walls, and soldiers rushed through the halls with weapons in hand. Raiders had been spotted beyond the desert ridge, and they were moving fast. Aaron threw on his gear and hurried to the command station, his heart pounding. He had faced raids before, small skirmishes, desperate groups of scavengers trying to steal supplies. But this time felt different. The tension in the air was sharper, heavier. Everyone knew this was not a small attack. When he entered the command hall, his eyes immediately found Sarah. She stood near the comms board, her ears high, her golden fur bristling. Her calmness was gone, replaced by a steady alertness that made her look more like a warrior than a translator. She didn't glance his way, but Aaron still felt the invisible thread between them pulling tight. The commander barked orders. Raiders advancing from the east. Defensive lines now. Humans on the wall. Vulpine scouts with me. The outpost moved like a machine. Aaron joined the line of humans arming the gates while Sarah followed her people out into the desert night. For a moment, Aaron felt hollow. He wanted to be near her, to protect her, but he couldn't. Duty pulled them in different directions. As the night deepened, the raiders came. They were brutal, armored in scavenged plates, their vehicles tearing across the sands with fire and noise. Blades and rifles glinted in the moonlight as they charged. The humans fired first, bullets cracking through the dry air. Explosions followed, the battle swallowing the desert in chaos. Aaron fired his weapon, his arms steady but his heart trembling. He had fought before, but tonight his fear was doubled, not just for his own life, but for Sarah's. And then he saw her. Through the dust and fire, Sarah fought like light itself. Her movements were swift, her strikes precise, her fur glowing faintly with that same shimmer he had seen in her quarters. She leapt through the fray with her people, silent and fierce. But Aaron's chest tightened as he realized something. The glow was stronger than before. Her bond, their bond, was showing itself in battle. If anyone saw it, if anyone noticed, everything would unravel. The fight raged on. Aaron pushed forward, with his squad, his eyes darting between raiders and the golden figure moving through the dust. But then it happened. Sarah faltered. A raider's blade struck her side, and she fell to the ground, her glow flickering like a candle in the wind. Aaron's breath caught. Without thinking, he broke formation and ran. He reached her just as another raider raised his weapon above her fallen form. Aaron fired, the shot ringing out, the raider collapsing at Sarah's side. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as he pressed against her wound. "You must leave me," Sarah gasped, her voice weak, her golden eyes dimming. "Go, you cannot stay here." "No," Aaron said fiercely, his voice breaking. "I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not ever." Her breath hitched, her hand weakly gripping his wrist. "Aaron, if you stay, you will see more than you are meant to. You will know the bond fully, and once you do, there is no return. You will be changed." Aaron's heart pounded. He thought of the rumors, of the whispers, of the fear that bonds meant control, manipulation, danger. He thought of his own fear, that he would lose himself, that he would no longer be just Aaron. But then he looked at her, wounded, trembling, yet still trying to protect him even in her weakest moment. And in her eyes he saw no control, no deception, only truth, only the same fear he carried. He whispered hoarsely, "Maybe I'm already changed." The desert roared around them, battle cries and gunfire filling the night. But in that small circle of dust and fire, Aaron's world shrank to just the two of them. His hand tightened around hers, his decision clear. "I don't care what it means," he said, his voice firm despite the chaos. "If this bond is real, if it's with you, then I'll accept it." Sarah's eyes widened, a tear slipping down her furred cheek. And then, as her faint glow touched his skin, something stirred deep inside Aaron. Something he could not name yet, but could feel. It was the beginning of something powerful. The bond was calling. The battle thundered around them, but for Aaron, the world had narrowed to Sarah's trembling form. Her golden glow flickered weakly against the shadows of fire and smoke. She was slipping away, and with her, something inside him threatened to break. Sarah tried to push him back. "Go, Aaron," she whispered, her voice strained. "You cannot be part of this. If the bond awakens, it will mark you forever. You will never be the same." Aaron shook his head, his hands pressing against her wound, his heart racing. "Then let it mark me. I'd rather be changed than lose you." Her amber eyes widened at his words. She searched his face, desperate to see doubt, but she found only fierce determination. And in that instant, something inside her gave way. Her trembling hand rose, pressing weakly against his chest. "Aaron," she breathed, "if you accept this, it is not a choice you can take back." "I know," he said firmly. And I'm still here. The moment stretched, fragile and infinite. Then the bond answered. Light burst from Sarah's body, flowing into Aaron like fire racing through his veins. He gasped, his back arching as heat and warmth filled him from within. His vision blurred, then sharpened beyond anything he had known. Every sound grew clear, the clash of metal, the cries of soldiers, the crack of rifles. And beneath it all, the steady rhythm of Sarah's heartbeat, echoing as if it were his own. He looked down at her, and she was glowing brighter now, her form stabilizing, her strength returning. But the light wasn't hers alone. It wrapped around them both, golden threads weaving through their bodies, binding them together in a way that defied words. For the first time, Aaron understood what she meant. The bond was not about control, not about taking. It was about sharing, about two souls standing side by side, stronger together than apart. Sarah's voice was faint but clear in his mind, though her lips did not move. You feel it now, don't you? Aaron's breath caught. Yes, he thought, the answer forming as naturally as speaking. I feel you, and she felt him. Their fear, their courage, their pain, all of it flowed between them. There were no walls, no secrets left, only truth. The battle surged around them, raiders pressing closer to the gates. Aaron rose to his feet, lifting his weapon, but he felt no fear now. Sarah rose beside him, her body shining like a beacon, her wound no longer slowing her. Together they stepped forward into the chaos. The raiders hesitated. Some shouted, pointing at the glowing figures emerging from the dust. Aaron and Sarah moved as one, every strike, every shot, every movement flowing in perfect harmony. Where Aaron faltered, Sarah was there. Where Sarah weakened, Aaron's strength carried her. To the soldiers on the wall, it looked like something out of legend, a human and a Vulpine fighting together, wreathed in golden fire, unbroken against the storm. Their bond was no secret tonight. It blazed for all to see. Aaron's heart pounded, but it no longer beat alone. Sarah's rhythm pulsed through him, steady and sure. He knew where she would move before she moved. He felt her courage as his own, her resolve anchoring him like steel. The raiders fell back, fear spreading through their ranks. They had expected an easy victory, but instead they faced something they could not understand, something stronger than their numbers or weapons. By the time dawn touched the desert horizon, the outpost still stood. Smoke rose from the sands, the bodies of raiders scattered in the dust. The humans cheered, their voices rising with relief. Aaron stood in the center of it all, his chest heaving, his body trembling with exhaustion. Sarah leaned against him, her glow fading gently, but her eyes were bright. You chose, she whispered softly, her voice carrying both gratitude and sorrow. Aaron looked at her, his hand steady on her shoulder. I didn't just choose, I believed. And as the twin suns rose over the battered outpost, Aaron realized something with aching clarity. He was no longer just himself. He was part of something greater, something unbreakable. The bond was no curse, it was a gift. And together, he and Sarah had proven that even in the darkest of nights, unity could burn brighter than fear. The desert outpost stood quiet after the battle. Smoke drifted over the sands, carrying the scent of ash and iron. The cries of war had faded into silence, replaced by the faint rustle of wind across broken stone. For the first time in many nights, the gates still held. Humanity had survived. Aaron sat on the wall, his rifle resting across his knees. His body ached from wounds and exhaustion, but his spirit burned with a strength he had never felt before. Every breath he took seemed to carry another heartbeat alongside his own. Sarah approached him slowly, her steps light but steady. Her golden glow had dimmed, yet a trace of it lingered around her like dawn's first light. She looked tired, but in her eyes there was peace. You should rest, she said softly, her voice carrying warmth despite the fatigue. Aaron smiled faintly, shaking his head. I can't rest yet. If I close my eyes, I'll wonder if this was all a dream. Sarah lowered herself beside him, her tail curling close. For a moment, they simply sat in silence, gazing out at the horizon where the suns were beginning to rise. The world seemed fragile, yet in that fragile beauty there was hope. Finally, Sarah spoke again. The others saw it, the bond. They will not understand what happened between us. Aaron let out a slow breath. He had felt it too. The stares of soldiers as he and Sarah stood together in the firelight, bound by something that glowed brighter than weapons or walls. Maybe they don't need to understand, he said. Maybe they just need to see what it means. Sarah turned her gaze toward him, her ears tilting slightly. And what does it mean, Aaron? He looked at her, his voice steady. It means we're stronger together than apart. It means that trust is more powerful than fear. That bond doesn't make me less human. It makes us both more. Her eyes softened, a faint shimmer of emotion glistening there. For Vulpine, the bond was sacred, feared, and rarely spoken of outside their kind. Yet here sat a human who embraced it without regret. It was something no tale from her people had ever told. As the suns climbed higher, others began to gather. Soldiers, engineers, medics, weary faces streaked with dust and sweat. They looked at Sarah with caution, but when their eyes turned to Aaron, their expression shifted. Some were afraid, some were curious, and some carried the spark of something else. Respect. Captain Rourke, a grizzled veteran who had commanded the outpost for years, stepped forward. His voice was rough, but steady. What happened last night? I've never seen anything like it. He looked at Aaron, then Sarah. You saved this place, both of you. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For humans, admitting strength in another species was not easy. For Vulpine, revealing their deepest secret was almost unthinkable. Yet the truth could not be hidden. Aaron stood, his shoulders straight, though his heart pounded. We didn't just fight together, he said, his voice carrying across the wall. We became together. The bond you saw, it wasn't weakness. It was trust. And if we can trust one another, then maybe we don't have to fight alone anymore. The silence stretched. Soldiers shifted, uncertain, but no one laughed or dismissed him. They had seen it with their own eyes. The glow, the unity, the unbroken line they had formed against the raiders. Sarah stepped forward then, her voice gentle yet firm. Among my people, the bond is rare. We fear it because it ties lives together so closely. But I see now. Perhaps it was never meant to be feared. Perhaps it was meant to show us a path we could not walk alone. The humans listened. Some nodded slowly. Others simply stood in thought. But a seed had been planted. Later that night, when the fires were doused and the gates repaired, Aaron and Sarah found themselves once more at the edge of the outpost. The stars stretched above them, countless and bright. Aaron glanced at her, his voice quiet. Do you regret it? That we're bound now? Sarah shook her head, her fur shimmering softly in the starlight. No. I only regret that it took so long for me to believe it could be more than pain. She looked at him with steady eyes. You showed me that the bond is not a chain but a choice. He reached for her hand, and this time she did not pull away. Their fingers intertwined, the golden thread of connection humming softly between them. In that simple touch, Aaron felt it again, the promise, the strength, the unspoken vow. They were no longer just human and Vulpine. They were proof that two hearts, no matter how different, could stand as one. And as the stars shone down on the quiet desert, Aaron understood something deeper than victory. The bond was not only their secret anymore. It was their story, a story of trust, of courage, and of unity that no fire or war could ever burn away. For humanity, for the Vulpine, for the future. Together, they had become more than survivors. Together, they had become a hope.